Welcome to Connected Payments with IxoPay, where we talk to the payment providers powering global commerce. I'm Morgan Worrell here with Thomas Beinhart. Join us as we explore the integrations, trends, and tech shaping the future of payments. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us live from Money 20 Amsterdam. Today, we're joined by Jake Melito, Senior Director of Enterprise Partnerships at Worldpay. Jake leads global partner development across fintech, e-commerce, digital platforms, and marketplaces, helping drive Worldpay's growth through strategic alliances and embedded payments. Thanks for joining us, Jake.
Thanks for having me, Morgan.
Worldpay has long been a heavyweight in the payment space. How would you describe Worldpay's role today, and what continues to make it such a critical partner for businesses around the world?
A little bit about WorldPay, right? So we're considered one of the largest payment service providers globally, largely because the amount of licenses that we have in each of the regions that we kind of do business in. Today, we have roughly $2.7 trillion dollars of transactions processed. That's across about 150, give or take, countries. We're constantly expanding on this. So we have just added new countries to our domestic list. Even in the last 2 weeks, we've added Colombia. But most recently, we've added Mexico, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates. So we're continuing to add to this kind of list of domestic countries, which is further adding to kind of the dominance that WorldPay has been playing in the payments market. That's going to be a continued kind of approach for us over the next few years as well. So yeah,
I mean, Jake, the recent announcement of Worldpay becoming part of global payments generated a lot of attention across the industry. While we understand there may be limits what you can share at this stage, but how do you see this move shaping Worldpay's future?
sure. Yeah, it's a good question. Very topical given the announcement happened only very recently. So I think it's important to note that the transaction hasn't processed yet. So there's not a whole lot that we can talk about on the topic. That said, the acquisition would create a leading pure play commerce solutions provider with extensive global scale for merchants of all sizes. Together with global payments, we'll be positioned to offer enhanced value to customers, partners across the payments ecosystem. As of now, as I mentioned, we're really just kind of focused on a smooth transition for our customers, partners, and obviously our colleagues at WorldPay. That said, excited about it and conscious that it's a very hot topic, not only in industry, but here at Money 2020.
Yeah. I mean, Generally, we have seen a wave of consolidation and strategic partnerships across the payment industry. And how does WorldPay view these developments in that space?
Yeah, sure. So I think realistically, we've been very aware of a lot of the current wave of consolidation and strategic partnerships across the market. A lot of them are being announced this week as well in Amsterdam. That said, I think we kind of view it as a validation of the critical role that payments really play, and more specifically, WorldPay within the digital economy. I mean, it's certainly a catalyst, at least as we view it, for innovation. So we're doubling down a lot on our strategic partnerships, whether that's software platforms, ISVs, it could be in embedded payments strategies, but we're investing more into our partner ecosystem, certainly within orchestration. And we kind of view a lot of these partners today as strategic and essential to the scale and differentiation that we need to be able to compete within the market.
Okay, great. Just get a bit of a merchant perspective in. What are the biggest expectations you are currently seeing, and how is WellPay evolving to meet those across the markets? Can you share something?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think expectations kind of differ depending on where our merchants are domiciled, right? So we obviously have merchants based across pretty much all of the 146 countries that we process in. But I think some of the recurring themes over the last year, there's been a significant rise in digital wallet adoption. So there's a large demand from our merchants today for being able to provide those digital wallets depending on where they're based, whether that's an Apple Pay, Google Pay, or an Alipay, et cetera. So we constantly need to respond to the demands of the digital wallet requirements that our merchants have. The second is there's a huge need for local payment methods. We know this as we are looking at expanding into a lot of these new markets that I mentioned kind of at the top of this session. Consumers want to have the payment method of their choosing available to them when they're checking out. And we know that it increases conversion rates, and we know that it decreases conversion rates when consumers don't have those payments available to them. So merchants are rightfully asking not just WorldPay, but I think their acquirers globally to ensure that these are available to their consumers and they're served to them in a fashion that is easy for them to pick and select in the checkout process so that it's smooth and seamless. I guess the third is there's definitely a lot of demand right now, I think, across marketplaces. A lot of traditional retailers, and not just retailers, but airlines, OTAs, digital merchants are thinking about adding a marketplace solution to their go-to-market strategy. There's a lot of nuances that surround marketplace adoption, not just from regulations in Europe and in Asia and in the US, but also from a product capability standpoint. So Worldpay's done quite a bit. We've doubled down on our investment in marketplaces over the last 12 months to make sure that we have a world-leading marketplace product that's ready for the market and able to be scaled when merchants are coming and launching these marketplaces. So yeah, I think those are probably the top three. I'd say if you asked me 6 months from now, I'm sure we would have three brand new topics to talk about. But yeah, we're responding, I think, rapidly to a lot of these demands, and we're investing quite a bit into the product to make sure we can meet it.
So following up on that topic, technologies continue to reshape the payment space. How is WorldPay investing in innovation, whether in areas like tokenization or real-time payments or maybe fraud prevention?
Yeah, another good question. So, I mean, even those three topics that you've mentioned, we're doing very different things, but we're investing, I think, heavily into all three of them. You may have seen a few months ago, we announced an acquisition of a fraud and AI company called Ravelin. So clearly, we're doing quite a lot in that space. We view it as a huge driver for us, especially as we're trying to add and complement our acquiring capabilities. Ravelin's a really interesting one. They're an industry-leading fraud management platform, but they also have a series of AI tools that help enhance their product set. So we're really excited about that acquisition. There's a lot that we can do together. There's also a lot of shared customers that we have. So being able to kind of tap into that, I think, will be interesting. We're also doing quite a bit, I think, in some of the more innovative space. You may have seen a recent announcement with Worldpay and BVNK around stablecoin adoption. It's not our first partnership in stablecoins. We did announce one about, I want to say 3 years ago around the idea of stablecoin settlement. So we're conscious that that's a hot topic right now, not just in the payment space, but also as it kind of branches into Web3. It's definitely a hot topic at Money 2020. I think in the wake of Stripe's acquisition of Bridge almost a year ago, maybe not, maybe the payments industry is moving a bit faster than I remember, but there's certainly a lot of eyeballs on the ideas of stablecoins. So this partnership has been in the works for a while. We're excited to announce it. And there's certainly a lot that we're going to be doing in the days to come within the stablecoin space. And then I think finally, just around optimization, you mentioned tokens. We've recently launched a product called Revenue Boost, which is really to enhance the optimization of approval rates for our customers. It bundles in a variety of different WorldPay optimization tools like account updater, tokens, network tokens, etc. So yeah, I guess your question was, what has WorldPay been doing in the technology space? The answer is quite a bit. I've named three. There's a lot that we've done post-spin from FIS, when we're excited to kind of bring these out to the market.
Yeah, that's great. Looking ahead, what trends or shifts do you think will most influence global payments over the next few years? And how is WorldPay preparing to lead in that future?
Yeah, so I think if I had to pick one of many, I think realistically, the adoption of real-time payments has been really interesting, especially in Brazil and in India around UPI and Pix. The adoption has been incredibly rapid. If the government is supporting some of these programs, we've seen, I mean, with Pix and UPI, the adoption has been in the 2 to 3 years. We've seen that become the majority of the way that the consumers want to pay a lot of times in the e-commerce space. So we see that as a huge trend moving forward. I think it depends on the different markets. In the United States, obviously, you have different real-time payment rails. You have FedNow, you have RTP, potentially the adoption of CBDCs coming in the next 5 years. So WorldPay, as a leading payments company, obviously is keeping a close eye on this, and we've made some interesting partnerships in the RTP space. And we partnered with Volt a couple years ago to enable us to approach open banking more broadly globally. But there's a number of partnerships that we'll likely have coming out over time, especially as consumers are wanting to pay more with their bank and wanting to pay faster.
That's very exciting. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for joining us today. We're live from Money 20 Amsterdam and appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Great.
Thanks.